Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udhirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Ruttamaśloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtikim Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna. Today we are going to read from Canto 1, Chapter 13, entitled Dhritarashtra Quits Home, text 25. I'll share my screen. Yeah. 1:13:25. Tasyapi tava dehoyam kripanasya jijivisho paraiti anichato jirno jaraya vasasi iva. Tasyapi tava dehoyam kripanasya jijivisho paraiti anichanto jirno jaraya vasasi iva. Tasyapi tava dehoyam kripanasya jijivisho paraiti anichanto jirno jaraya vasasi iva. Word for word meanings. Tasya, of this, api, in spite of, tava, your, deha, body, ayam, this, kripanasya, of one who is miserly, jijivisho, of you who desire life, paraiti, will dwindle, anichataha, even unwilling, jirnaha, deteriorated, jaraya, old, vasasi, garments, iva, like. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Despite of your unwillingness to die and your desire to live even at the cost of honor and prestige, your miserly body will certainly dwindle and deteriorate like an old garment. Purport. The words Kripanasya Jijivisho are significant. There are two classes of men. One is called the Kripana and the other is called the Brahmana. The Kripana, or the miserly man, has no estimation of his material body, but the Brahmana has a true estimation of himself and the material body. The Kripana, having a wrong estimation of his material body, wants to enjoy sense gratification with his utmost strength, and even in old age, he wants to become a young man by medical treatment or otherwise. Dhritarashtra is addressed herein as a Kripana because, without any estimation of his material body, he wants to live at any cost. Vidura is trying to open his eyes to see that he cannot live more than his term and that he must prepare for death. Since death is inevitable, why should he accept such a humiliating position for living? It is better to take the right path even at the risk of death. Human life is meant for finishing all kinds of miseries of material existence, and life should be so regulated that one can achieve the desired goal. Dhritarashtra, due to his wrong conception of life, had already spoiled 80% of his achieved energy, so it behooved him to utilize the remaining time of his miserly life for the ultimate good. Such a life is called miserly because one cannot properly utilize the assets of human form of life. Only by good luck does such a miserly man meet a self-realized soul like Vidura, and by his instruction gets rid of the nescience of material existence. I'll start after prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesa Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam karoti vachalam pangam lankhayate kiram yatkripatamham vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam. Hare Krishna. Welcome all of you to this Srimad Bhagavatam class this morning. Today, this is in continuation to what devotees have been speaking till now. In this section, Dhritarashtra quits home, but he doesn't quit on his own. He is forced to quit by his brother Vidura. So Vidura. So this section is happening. If we try to understand how the flow of the entire thing, this is in terms of time, it is happening after the second and third and fourth canto also, I guess, because I think up to third canto, if I'm right, Vidura and Maitreya speak to each other. So Vidura inquires from Maitreya, and after that, Vidura comes back. So during the war of Kurukshetra, Vidura visits various holy places. In fact, he was actually insulted by Duryodhana. That also we see in the first canto only. So he's insulted. He just goes to pilgrimage, taking that as an opportunity to visit different holy places. And there we also read about how Vidura did not choose to go to meet Krishna, although Krishna was on the planet at that time. Rather, he went to different holy places and he felt unqualified. That's what Prabhupada writes in the purport. And then he goes to various places with a sincere desire to develop his consciousness and progress on the path of bhakti. So that is the reason Vidura was traveling all over the world. And Krishna, who is Bhaktavatsala, who actually takes care of the desires of each and every devotee. He understood the sincerity of Vidura's purpose, and then before he left this planet, he spoke to Uddhava, and at that time Maitreya was also there. And the purpose of Maitreya's presence there, the Prabhupada says in that section that Maitreya was not yet a pure devotee. But still Maitreya was present there, and the purpose was this, that Krishna wanted Maitreya to give his message to Vidura. Uddhava was sent to Badrikashram, and Maitreya was waiting there to meet Vidura. And in fact, Vidura meets Uddhava, and Uddhava, because he was younger than Vidura, he asks Vidura to go and meet Maitreya. And with Maitreya was the message of Krishna for Vidura. And Vidura takes that message, and then after that he returns to Hastinapura. And the purpose of his return is not to enjoy the kingdom, rather he wanted to deliver his brother Dhritarashtra. And of course, along with his brother, his brother's wife Gandhari also gets delivered. So this whole section is in the flow of this section is like that. So here we see that Vidura already knew that Krishna left this world by this time, but still he doesn't speak about that anywhere. Rather, this is going to be known to Pandavas later, like when Arjuna returns, and at that time he speaks about like Krishna's departure from this world, and then Pandavas also prepare for their departure. So here Vidura is directly speaking to Dhritarashtra, and this is one of the preaching techniques Vidura is using here. There are many preaching techniques we see in the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. If we see from a preacher's perspective, it's like a preacher's guidebook or handbook, and the dean of this whole course is our great Narad Muni. He goes to every person. In fact, Bhagavatam is more or less a collection of stories of disciples of Narada, like we see from the beginning till the end. In fact, in the beginning, Narada himself speaks about himself, like, how he got connected, like, how I came to Krishna consciousness. So that's what Narada says when Vyasa was despondent. And then Vyasa's story come. That is where we see the first disciple of Narada, that he was despondent after after writing all this Vedic literature, but still he was not satisfied. At that time, Narada comes and tells about his story to give inspiration. This is just like how we see in our today's ISKCON also, right? So one devotee feels a little bit of lack of inspiration, and the other devotee comes and says, "Oh, don't worry, I also underwent something like this." Narada actually gives that kind of perspective that unless you glorify the Supreme Lord, you can't be satisfied. So this was there since that time actually. And then Vyasadeva, out of gratitude to Narada, when Narada instructs him to write Srimad Bhagavatam, he wanted to glorify Narada Muni, and that is the reason he collects stories of different disciples of Narada. And these disciples are from very low class persons to very high class, like elevated, even in the social structure. Like we see Dhruva Maharaj, we see Prahlad, we see what is his name, Chitraketu. These are from very high categories, and then we see many other devotees, like I don't remember any, like I think Vritrasur, but of course he's same as Chitraketu. There are many devotees whom Narada delivers. So in the entire Srimad Bhagavatam, we see many devotees who are actually trained by Narada, and then they become like young children, like Prachetas. They were also trained by Narada. So many places this is the constant theme, and in every story Narada is there constantly. And the reason is that Vyasadeva wanted to glorify Narada Muni so much. So here we see that Vidura takes the role of a preacher, and this is one of the preaching techniques he's using, that sometimes you have to be strong. So Prabhupada said that we have to speak truth in an uncompromising way, and that is what Vidura is precisely doing here. This is like an open heart surgery for Dhritarashtra, and it is painful, of course. No purification process is painless actually, unless we are totally in tune with Krishna. So here, obviously, Dhritarashtra is not in tune with Krishna, and Vidura comes to keep him in tune with Krishna and prepare him for his inevitable death. So, and that is why Vidura is speaking in a harsh way. Like we see, Narada speaks to Prachina Parishad. At that time, he speaks an allegorical story, which runs into chapters actually. And that is one of the preaching techniques, because that person was too much engrossed in sense gratification. Narada presents the whole philosophy in such a nice packaged manner that it was palatable for Prachina Parishad, and Prachina Parishad became very rapt with attention, and he started hearing, because hearing is the most important process in the path of devotional service. So unless we hear, we cannot actually gain access to the higher realms of devotional service. And hearing from acharyas forms the beginning, it forms the basis, it forms the foundation for all our spiritual life. And it's not that, okay, once we begin, then it ends. No, even our nourishment in bhakti takes place through hearing, because hearing is the connection with the spiritual world. So we connect to the spiritual world through our ears. So when one of our ISKCON sannyasis was asked, what is the distance between material world and spiritual world? His answer was very simple. He said, it is the distance between your mouth and your ear. So when you chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, if you are able to take it to your ear and from there, of course, into the heart, then you are already in the spiritual world. But if it comes out of the mouth and it doesn't go into the ear, then we lost connection actually. So basically, hearing has a very prominent position in all the limbs of bhakti, and when we hear from the great souls, then success is guaranteed actually. We hear with attention, with an absorption, and with an attitude to serve the message, with an attitude to get blessed by the message of Srimad Bhagavatam. So, in fact, in the second or third canto, I don't remember exactly. I think it is in second canto, or maybe in third canto. There, um, Vidura, when he's speaking to Maitreya, he speaks this particular verse. He says, I don't remember the verse, but the meaning of the verse is, he says that I want to be blessed by the message of Srimad Bhagavatam, because Bhagavatam is a person. An object cannot give us blessings, as a person can bless us. And it is understood that when we make a person happy, then his happiness actually comes on us as blessings. So by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, we are making Krishna happy, and when Krishna is pleased, then his blessings come upon us. It's like prayers go up and blessings come down. So we are praying to Krishna through the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. So that is how, coming back to this Vidura's preaching technique, it is sometimes it depends on the person to whom we are preaching, right? We all have more or less some kind of experience of how to deal with various people when we go into the field of preaching. Sometimes the person is kind of introvert, then you have to little bit pamper him and slowly make him open up and speak. And sometimes some person is like little more he's just outgoing. He just actively participates in various things. He has so much of passion to work. Then the preacher is also very intelligent. He tries to find out ways and means where his passion can be engaged in Krishna service. Sometimes we see people who are like very philosophically oriented. Then we try to preach to him in such a way that they get that philosophical, they get that intellectual satisfaction, right? And sometimes some people may be very much oriented into research kind of things. Then we preach also to them in that way, that there is a lot of research you can do in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam itself. Somebody may be oriented towards music, and we say, okay, here kirtans we have, because Krishna is all pervading, right? It's not only in the sense of like he is present in every atom, but he is also present in every aspect of our life. Mm. We can connect any activity that we are doing in our life to Krishna consciousness, right? It only requires a little bit of intelligence and a little bit of guidance from our superiors. And that guidance, which is nothing but their blessing, their mercy, helps us realize that connection. And when we get connected, then it is easy to realize Krishna anywhere. So there are certain people who are like uh, attached to sense gratification, and at that time the preachers become little heavy, and they say like you are living a life of a donkey, what are you doing? And that is out of compassion only. Like Prabhupada, whenever he spoke a little harsh to people in general, or new people, that was only out of compassion. It was not out of to show that I am superior, I win this argument. No, that was never the mood. So and here we see Vidura also. Prabhupada actually took the similar position of Vidura in many instances, that he was speaking harsh. And in fact those were truths actually, those were eternal truths. And Vidura is also using that kind of technique. He sees that Dhritarashtra is so attached, and he wanted to pull Dhritarashtra out of this attachment. And at that time, instead of giving a vaccination kind of or injection kind of thing, he had to do a surgery. And that surgery of course is painful, and that is required. that is required. Sometimes that is required because unless they undergo this kind of, a person who is too much attached to sense gratification, Krishna says in Gita, Bhogaisvarya prasaktanam taya apahrita chetasam vyavasayatmika buddhi samadho na vidhiyate. It's impossible for a person who is too much attached to bhoga and aishwarya to have this one-pointed focus on devotional service, because his intelligence is many branched. He says that vyavasayatmika buddhi eke kurunandana bahushaka hi anantasya buddhayah avyavasayinah. It's impossible to focus on the message of the Supreme Lord. Rather, the intelligence becomes multi-branched, and we are not able to get the essence of the spiritual life, right? So in such case, we see that preachers become little heavy also, and they start saying that, what are you doing? You are living a life like an ass or a donkey. Come out of this. Come out of this. And if it is painful, that is good actually, because the purpose of my speaking is to make you realize that you need to come out of this attachment. Otherwise, you don't see the world outside, world in Krishna consciousness, right? And that is the purpose Vidura is speaking these words. And we see how Vidura treated Pandavas, and Pandavas treated Vidura just a few shlokas back. They say, Tirthi kurvanti tirthani, you are like a walking holy place, because you are carrying Krishna in your heart. Wherever you go, that is the holy place. So that is also spoken. But here, today, Vidura is focusing on the aspect of how Dhritarashtra is simply living like a Kripana. Prabhupada also says that Kripanasya Jijivisho, that is the most important, significant statement. Right? He is a Kripana. What is the meaning of Kripana? He is spoken at various places. Prabhupada actually, of course, he gives some definition here. I mean, he gives a definition in this particular purport, but he gives more elaborately in the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. It is 2.7. He says about Kripana. This is a famous verse, right? Karpanya dosho pahata svabhava pruchhami tvam dharma sammuda cheta yachreyasam nischitam bruhitan me sishyasteham shadhimam tvam prapannam. Right? There he actually says about what is the definition of Kripana. So in the purport, he says, the beginning of this purport itself is like, it is 2.7 Gita. By nature's own way, the complete system of material activities is a source of perplexity for everyone. And then, of course, he goes on saying many things. In the second paragraph, who is the man in material perplexity? It is he who does not understand the problems of life. In the Brihada Aranyaka Upanishad, the perplexed man is described as follows. He is a miserly man who does not solve the problems of life as a human, and who thus quits this world like cats and dogs without understanding the science of self-realization. So that is a miserly man. So a miser is a person who doesn't, he says, Prabhupada says that who doesn't solve the problems of life as a human, and who quits this world like cats and dogs. Such a person is a miser. If we go a little deep into this 2.7 Bhagavad Gita, Karpanya dosho apahata swabhava. So here Arjuna is realizing that, I am being attacked by Karpanya. Karpanya Prabhupada translates as of miserliness, right? So miserliness is attacking Arjuna. He's saying, just like we have kapha dosha, or, pitta dosha, or vata dosha, we have, in Ayurveda, our body is made up of these three elements like kapha, vata, and pitta, mucus, bile, and air. And Ayurvedic treatments are based on balancing these three in our body. So here Arjuna is attacked by similar dosha, that is Karpanya dosha. Karpanya means miserliness. He is acting in a miserly way, and he is realizing that, right? He is realizing, and that's why he is asking Krishna for his suggestion. Up to this point, Krishna doesn't give any instruction. After this shloka, this is a turning point in Bhagavad Gita. We all might have heard this many times. That 2.7 is a turning point in Bhagavad Gita, where Arjuna starts surrendering. And what is the reason for his surrender? The reason is that he realized that he is being attacked by Karpanya, or miserliness. And then he says, Karpanya dosho apahata swabhava pruchhami tvam dharma sammoda cheta. So my miserliness has stolen away my intelligence, because of which what is the consequence of being miserly is that we become dharma sammodata. We come into dharma sammodata. That means we lose discrimination between lower and higher dharma, adharma and dharma, and all that. We lose discrimination, and we become indecisive, right? Indecisiveness is because of miserliness, right? Because we have this attack of miserliness on us. We become indecisive many times. And the best course of action is to, as soon as we identify this, we go and ask some superior that, just surrender to them, saying the same shloka, karpanya dosho pahata svabhava, and the result of being indecisive is that we can't think about shreyas, long-term happiness. We only start thinking about short-term happiness or short-term goals. Everyone is thinking about happiness, right? Everyone wants happiness in this world. But the point is, are we looking for a short-term happiness or a long-term happiness? So our long-term happiness is, today's we see in this world, like, long-term happiness means, okay, think about next 30, 40 years. But that is not long enough. We need to think about, next lifetime and even the other lifetime, if that is going to be there, right? So that is long-term. That is shreyas, actually. And when we understand that we are miserly, just like Arjuna did in this particular shloka, that, go and surrender to a superior and ask him that, please instruct me on what is my long-term, what is the action I need to do, I need to execute, so that I can become happy in a long term, right? So that is Shreyas. And then he surrenders, actually. Sishyasteham shadhimam tvam prapannam. So, as I said, Karpanya leads to Dharma Sammudata and Dharma Sammuda Cheta. He says, Dharma Sammuda Cheta, of course, Dharma Sammudata is nothing but indecisiveness, that means loss of intelligence. And because of indecisiveness, we can't think about Shreyas. And the solution to the whole problem is that we go and surrender to a superior, some authority, and express our heart, saying that, this is the problem I'm facing, can you please help me? And people are ready to help. The difference between Arjuna and Dhritarashtra that we are seeing today is nothing but, Arjuna realized he is becoming miserly, whereas Dhritarashtra did not realize. He's still thinking that, okay, I'm still thinking about my long-term goal. Prabhupada said in the purport that he has already wasted 80% of his life, only remaining 20% is there. And Vidura becomes so compassionate. He says, why should my brother suffer like this? Let me go and help him out. So in Arjuna's case, he was surrendering to Krishna, identifying that he became miserly. In Dhritarashtra's case, he did not surrender to anyone. Vidura himself came to help out Dhritarashtra. So here we can see Krishna doesn't want to interfere into anyone's free will, and that is why he waited for Arjuna to surrender to him. Right? As soon as Arjuna surrendered, Krishna actually opened up the entire Bhagavad Gita to him, and he spoke from, this philosophy by which Arjuna became reinstated in his original consciousness. Whereas in Vidura and Dhritarashtra's case, we see that Dhritarashtra is not surrendering to Vidura, coming and asking, "Oh, I am overcome by miserliness. Can you please help me?" No, Vidura himself came and started heavily preaching to Dhritarashtra. In fact, he calls him as a dog. You are living here like a dog, right? He says that. So this is the difference between the compassion of Krishna and compassion of a devotee. Many times we hear that a devotee actually is more merciful than Krishna himself. Why? Because Krishna doesn't want to interfere into our free will. If we just want to do some other activity, even after coming to Krishna consciousness, if we get just distracted to some kind of sense gratification, Krishna says, okay, no problem, I will wait. He doesn't come and force you. Hey, you came here, you came to me, why are you again going to sense gratification? No, Krishna says, do according to your free will. Use your free will, right? And whereas devotees, they come and say, like, because they understand Krishna's heart. They understand Krishna's heart, and they come and say, hey, Prabhu, you are going in a wrong direction. Could you please correct yourself, for your ultimate benefit? So that will save us from, the most dangerous things in this world, actually. That is why devotee association is very, very important. And here Vidura is taking that role. He is taking a role which is more compassionate than Krishna himself. He's taking that role, and he's trying to pull Dhritarashtra out of this darkness. So this is not the only verse where this Karpanya is being Karpanya or Kripana is being spoken in Bhagavad Gita. This is one of the most famous verses, of course. But then in the same chapter there is another reference to this Kripana, and that is in 2.49 again, which forms the basis of in one sense it is where Arjuna gets confused. He lost Krishna for a moment, just like when we are hearing on a phone call, we lose somebody because of some signal connection issues. Sometimes we just get we lose the other person for a moment and then we come back. So without going into the context of the flow of Gita, but I would like to quote this verse 2.49. I would like to explain it in the context of today's verse, actually. So 249 is one of the important verses, and it is that verse is Durena Hyavaram Karma Buddhi Yoga Dhananjaya Buddho Sharanam Anvicha Kripana Falahetavaha. So in fact, this is the section where Krishna introduces a new kind of yoga called Buddhi Yoga. We hear Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Ashtanga Yoga and all that. But Krishna introduces here Buddhi Yoga. O Dhananjaya, keep all abominable activities far distant by devotional service, and in that consciousness surrender unto the Lord. Those who want to enjoy the fruits of their work are misers. So this is where Krishna speaks about Kripana. So in the first case, Arjuna identified himself as Kripana, 2.7. And here Krishna is speaking what is the how Kripanas behave. He says Kripana Falahetavaha. So those who are misers, they are always attached to the fruits of their action. So he was in this context, we can say that Krishna is trying to identify or speak to Arjuna that yes, you are right that in 2.7 you said you are Kripana, and actually you are a Kripana. Why? Because you are miserly getting attached to the fruits of your actions. So you should come out of that. Of course, in the future verses he speaks more about that, and then he speaks about Sthita Pragya and all that, I think from 2.54. So this is another place where Kripana is spoken about. So the solution here for this Kripana mentality, to come out of this Kripana mentality, is Krishna is giving here. It is Buddhi Yoga. Act in the consciousness of serving the Lord. So that is the solution, right? So in the first place, we are trying to compare them. You see, 2.7, Arjuna is saying, I am Kripana. I want to surrender to understand what is my real long-term happiness. And Krishna starts speaking Bhagavad Gita. And in 2.49, Krishna is saying that, Kripanas are those people who are attached to the fruits of their action. So you don't be a Kripana. That is what he is saying to Arjuna, right? And in the Bhagavatam, today's verse, Vidura is saying, of course, in 2.49, Krishna says, you don't be a Kripana, but act in Buddhi Yoga. Act in a way by which you can serve the Supreme Lord through your action. Your action is worship, right? So that is what is Krishna speaking in Bhagavad Gita. In this today's verse, 113.25, Vidura is also saying that, you are living like a Kripana to Dhritarashtra, and he is trying to give a jolt to Dhritarashtra, saying that, you have already lost 80% of your life. Why are you still attached to these luxuries and comforts? Your sons have already been killed. Why are you living here like a dog, right? So if we go into the definition of this miser, in the Oxford Dictionary, it is said as a person who hoards a lot of wealth and spends as little as possible. This is the definition from the Oxford Dictionary. It says about Kripana or miser. So he hoards a lot of wealth, but then he doesn't want to use it. So that means any person who has so much of capacity to serve, or so much of capacity to work, or so much of capacity to use some of his assets, but he doesn't want to, he is not using it for the right purpose, then he is called a Kripana. And this Kripana can be at various levels, actually. It can be on a bodily level, it can be on a, just like these bodybuilders, they are building their body. And in fact, imagine if one day mother of a bodybuilder comes and says that, oh, my dear son, can you please lift this weight? I'm feeling this is very heavy, maybe some grocery bag or something. And he says, no, I don't want to do. So that is also Kripana mentality only, right? Because he's given some, some assets by the Supreme Lord in terms of his physique or whatever, and then he's not using it for, for serving someone else. So then it is Kripana mentality actually. But we are not speaking about that. This is just an example actually. But then people can be intellectual Kripanas also, right? Krishna has given us this human form of body, human form of life, where we have higher intelligence compared to animals. Animals also have intelligence, but their intelligence is only in terms of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Whereas human beings have intelligence where we can think about something higher, something beyond eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. So that is human intelligence. We are meant to do that, and that is the purpose of our life. Actually, we start questioning. We start questioning, inquiry. Atato Brahma Jigyasa. That is the beginning of human life actually. And we say that I don't want to do that. I simply want to live like animals. Then that is Kripana life. And if we have to be very honest and frank, we can understand, 99% of people in this world are Kripanas. And I count myself also in that category, because Krishna has given me so much facility to practice bhakti, but it becomes this Kripana mentality easily overcomes us. And that is why we don't use our resources in a proper way. And when this is being, what is Kripana mentality? In a sense, it is like very bad at resource management. That is Kripana mentality, right? We have so many resources, but we don't use them properly. So we have intellectual resources, we have maybe financial resources in many cases, and we have resources in terms of good health. That is also a blessing from Krishna. And all these things, if we don't use it properly, then we are termed as Kripana. Very simple. So these Kripanas are also described in Bhagavad Gita in 7.15 with a different name, actually, slightly different name. Of course, one may argue saying that these may not be the same people, like these may not be the same definitions. There Krishna speaks about Dushkritina, right? And then he speaks about namam dushkritino mudha prapadyante naradhama asuri, maya apahrita jnana asurim bhavam asritaha. He says there are 4 kinds of dushkritinas who do not want to surrender to me. And who are they? They are mudhas, naradhamas, then mayaya apahrita jnanam, and then the 4th category is asurim bhavam asrita, those who have taken shelter of lower modes, or asuric modes actually. So I would like to just go to that purport and try to highlight a few things which are in connection to what we are reading today. That is 7.15. I'm not reading the entire purport. That's a long purport actually. I'm going to read only one small section of this one. This is in the Bhagavad Gita as it is, 7.15, page 337. He says, another class of Dushkritana or miscreant is called the Naradhama, or the lowest of mankind. Nara means human being and Adhama means the lowest. Out of 84 lakh different species of living beings, there are 4 lakh human species. Out of these, there are numerous lower forms of life that are mostly uncivilized. The uncivilized human beings are those who have regulative principles of social, political, and religious life. Those who are socially and politically developed, but who have no religious principles, must be considered Naradhamas. So this is the connection I am trying to bring here. We see the life of Dhritarashtra, and how is he? He's socially and politically, very developed actually, isn't it? He's socially developed. He's politically also. He's a politician, of course. He's a Kshatriya. But then he has no religious principle. He must be considered Naradhama, right? Nor is religion without God religion, because the purpose of following religious principle is to know the supreme truth and man's relationship with him. In the Gita, the personality of Godhead clearly states that there is no authority above him, and that he is supreme truth. The civilized form of human life is meant for man's reviving the lost consciousness of his eternal relation with the supreme truth, the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, who is all powerful. So we can see this happening in the case of Dhritarashtra very clearly, right? He was socially developed, he was politically developed, he was able to, like, he also got darshan of Krishna, although he was blind, right? When Krishna was being, when Krishna was kind of like, the Duryodhana was trying to bind Krishna at that time, Dhritarashtra also gets the vision to see Krishna's universal form, partial universal form. And then Krishna also gives, the message of Bhagavad Gita to Dhritarashtra through Sanjaya. So we see this, and we can understand that Dhritarashtra is not a normal person. Actually, he got so much mercy. But then after the Kurukshetra war is over, after everything is over, still he is living the same kind of same old kind of lifestyle, that he was not realizing that Krishna has given me so much facility, although I am blind, but let me surrender to Krishna. He was not thinking like that, and that's why Vidura came here, to bring him out of this Kripana mentality. He was he was socially and politically developed, but not religiously. So here Prabhupada is speaking about, because the purpose of following religion is to know the supreme truth and man's relations with him. So that is the purpose. And if that purpose is not solved, then you are a Kripana, right? Because that is, human life is meant for a purpose, and you don't use it for that purpose. Then you become Kripana, actually, right? So Naradama is very, very closely related to Kripana. These are relatives, actually. So we get information from revealed scripture that when a baby is in mother's womb, an extremely uncomfortable situation, he prays to God for deliverance and promises to worship him alone as soon as he gets out. To pray to God when he is in difficulty is a natural instinct in every living being, because he is eternally related with God. But after his deliverance, the child forgets the difficulties of birth and forgets his deliverer also, being influenced by Maya, the illusory energy. Of course, Prabhupada keeps, he continues speaking about, children, they have to revive their divine consciousness, and then the samskaras and all that. So to the end of this paragraph, he says, however, no process is strictly followed now in any part of the world, and therefore 99.9% of population is Naradama. I had a lower estimation. I was saying 99%. Here Prabhupada is saying 99.9% of people are Naradamas, actually. When the whole population becomes Naradamas, naturally all their so-called education is made full null and void by the all-powerful energy of physical nature. According to the standard of the Gita, a learned man is he who sees on equal terms. This is the shloka which was quoted by Krishna some time back. Learned Brahmana, the dog, the cow, the elephant, and dog eater. That is the vision of the true devotee. So here he is saying that most of the population is Naradama, and when people are Naradama, then all their education is null and void. So whatever we are doing today in the name of research, or whatever it is all null and void, because we are not identifying Krishna to be the supreme personality of Godhead. And we are not surrendering. Even after getting so much education, we are not surrendering. And this is very similar to Dhritarashtra's condition, right? Today's world's condition. Dhritarashtra also got so much knowledge. He got to hear Bhagavad Gita directly, right? But still he did not surrender to Krishna. So his purpose of hearing was not fulfilled. You see, we compare, previously also we compared Arjuna and Dhritarashtra, and then we have Krishna and Vidura, we had that kind of comparison. Now also we see that, after hearing Bhagavad Gita, what was Arjuna's response and what was Dhritarashtra's response? Both of them heard Bhagavad Gita at the same time, actually. Only difference is that Arjuna was hearing it on the battlefield, and Dhritarashtra was sitting in his office and hearing it from Sanjaya. That's the only difference. Otherwise, there is no difference, actually. But then the result is different, right? Arjuna surrendered to Krishna, whereas Dhritarashtra said, maybe, I'll take some more time. He was in that, let the fight happen, let the battle finish, right? So today we are also in the same situation, actually. The modern civilization, today's civilization, today's culture, today's society, they got so much knowledge, actually, right? We are able to solve so many problems of this life. of this world, isn't it? We also got COVID vaccine. We are using our intelligence. We have intelligence, but then it is not used for the right purpose. And that is why the whole society also is called Kripanas. 99%, 99.9% of people are Naradamas. And as I said, these two categories are like, relatives actually. So the point is like, unless a person is able to see, like, according to the standard of Gita, a learned man is he who sees Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavihastini. That is, paraphrased here. So that is the vision of a true devotee. So that is Prabhupada is saying here. But then an Aradhama cannot see like that. The classic example is Dhritarashtra. He was saying, Dhritarashtra Uvacha, what is that? In the beginning of Bhagavad Gita itself, he's saying like, Dharma Kshetre, Kurukshetre, Samaveta Yuyutsavaha, Mamaka, Pandavascheva. He has a division in his vision, right? He is not able to see my sons and Pandavas as same. I mean, Kauravas and Pandavas as on an equal platform. He was differentiating there, right? So that is how a Kripana or a Naradama actually behaves. Right? He doesn't have equal vision, and that is the problem. He has a vision defect actually. So Prabhupada, of course, he continues to say, Sri Nityananda Prabhu, who is the incarnation of Godhead as Divine Master, delivered the typical Naradamas, the brothers Jaga and Madai, and showed how the mercy of a real devotee is bestowed upon the lowest of mankind. So the Naradama, who is condemned by personality of Godhead, can again revive his spiritual consciousness only by the mercy of a devotee. You see exactly what is happening in the case of Vidura and Dhritarashtra, right? So Dhritarashtra was like a hopeless case in the eyes of Krishna, right? Although Krishna Krishna gave him the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. Krishna was his family member, right? Krishna was giving him, suggestions directly or indirectly. He was trying to, instruct Dhritarashtra in so many ways. We can see that throughout his life. But then he was not able to take the message of Krishna, correct? So just like Nityananda Prabhu took the role of spiritual master to deliver Jaga and Madai, here we see Vidura also takes the role of being the spiritual master of Dhritarashtra and deliver him. When Krishna gave up hope, devotees do not give up hope. Devotees say, no, it is still possible, So because and they are also empowered by Krishna. That is the beauty of it. And Krishna says, this fellow is hopeless. Then devotees like there was a story like Sachinandan Maharaj. He speaks about that. He says that I think Sachinandan Maharaj or Mahatma Prabhu, I don't remember. Like he says that even I go to the spiritual world and I'm just entering into the spiritual world, and Krishna says, wait, don't come, no hope, you cannot enter spiritual world. When Krishna says that, I still wait at the door. And why? What is the reason? The reason is that because devotee has not said that. A devotee did not come and tell me that, you have no hope. Only Krishna has said that, right? Because Krishna has said, and devotee has not spoken it, I think I still have some hope, right? So that is what he says that. He says that, unless a devotee comes and tells that you have no hope in progressing on the path of bhakti, I still keep my hope. Even if Krishna says me that, you are a hopeless candidate. Because devotee's mercy is far more powerful than Krishna's mercy. And why is it like that? Krishna is all powerful actually. Krishna must be the most powerful. He is Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because Krishna doesn't want to, Krishna wants to give give the credit to all his devotees. He doesn't want to take any credit. So he says, I don't want to deliver this person. You take charge of him and you deliver him. And I will empower you to deliver him. And Krishna and that pure devotee have that very intimate connection. They have like, some internal meeting saying, okay, I'll take care of the conditioned souls, right? We see many examples. We have seen so many examples today. Like we see the example of Nityananda Prabhu, who is delivering Jaga and Madai. They were like hopeless case in terms of, Chaitanya, in terms of Krishna's eyes. But then Nityananda Prabhu went and approached them and, he tried to pull them out of that ignorant position. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had to bestow his mercy upon these fallen souls. We see the example of Vidura. Vidura is coming and delivering Dhritarashtra in today's verse. He is trying to pull him out of the Kripana mentality, right? So we see like that many examples. So I will read this one small section and then I will close. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in propagating the Bhagavata Dharma or activities of the devotees, has recommended that people submissively hear the message of the personality of Godhead. The essence of this message is Bhagavad Gita. The lowest among human beings can be delivered by this submissive hearing process only. But unfortunately, they even refuse to give an oral reception to these messages, and what to speak of surrendering to the will of the Supreme Lord. Naradhamas, or the lowest of mankind, willfully neglect the prime duty of the human being. This is exactly in line with what we see in today's verse. Actually, Dhritarashtra has been doing all this, right? So here it is said, like Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in propagating the Bhagavad Dharma, has recommended that people submissively hear the message from the message of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He got an opportunity. Dhritarashtra got an opportunity not once, so many times in his life to hear from Krishna. But then he said, right here, Prabhupada says that he willfully neglect the prime duty of human being, right? That is what happened with him. And then Krishna also said, okay, no hope with this candidate. I spoke to him so many times, directly, indirectly, in whatever way possible. I also made him hear Bhagavad Gita. But then the result is different. Like, Arjuna heard, he has a different result. I mean, he acted in a right way, and Dhritarashtra also heard, but he did not act in a right way, right? So it depends on, like, how we are open to the message. So Dhritarashtra got so many opportunities in his life, but because he was having this Kripana mentality, he was not able to accept those messages. So Vidura, I mean, like they say, right? In Hindi, there is a saying, Sau sonar ka ek lohar ka, right? They have this, sonar is a goldsmith. He keeps hitting that gold, very slowly, because he wanted to bring a right shape out of it. Ek lohar ka means, that a person who is a blacksmith, he doesn't have this small, what to say, the a small tool. He has a big one. He just hits hard, like, till now, what has been happening in Dhritarashtra's life was that this house on Arka, like, he has been getting small doses here and there, but those were not sufficient. And Vidura realized that, and that is the purpose. He took a detour and came back to the kingdom. Vidura realized that, and ek lohar ka, one big shot. And that is when Dhritarashtra understood, oh man, what am I doing? Let me go, quit home and go to the forest, right? So that we will read in the future verses. So in today's, in summary, we have seen, we have covered what is a Kripana mentality, and we have tried to compare how Arjuna realized his Kripana mentality and surrendered to Krishna for a long-term happiness. And Dhritarashtra was not able to do, and that's why Vidura came to help him out. And we also saw sections from Bhagavad Gita 2.7, 2.49, and also 7.15 in connection to this word Kripana, and how Prabhupada, whatever Prabhupada wrote in all those sections exactly applies to Dhritarashtra here. And we also have seen how a devotee is more merciful than Krishna himself by the empowerment he receives from Krishna, right? Vidura came to deliver Dhritarashtra, who was like a hopeless case in the eyes of Krishna, actually. So these are the things in essence that we covered today. I will stop here. I think we still have 2 more minutes. If anyone has any comments or suggestions, please feel free to go ahead. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. This is Jayant. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Prabhupada Maharaj.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Yes, Prabhuji.
Just I have a generic question, maybe slightly tangential to this miserly discussion about the miserliness. So, so basically, people are blessed with different things in different capacity, at whatever age or stage of life they are in. Like, some has more health, some has more wealth, some has more relationship, less of other
Yeah.
So what, whether in service of Krishna or service of, general good for humanity, which one should be given up? Obviously the ones that they have less, they don't have much to give there, or and that just a general question, that might help me make some decisions.
If I would like to repeat the question so that I can understand if I understood it properly or not. So you mean to say that different people have different resources in their lives at different stages of their lives, and what should we try to give in the service of Krishna and service of devotees? Is that right, Prabhu? Or
Yes, Prabhu, that's correct.
okay. Yeah, what can we give is a big question, Prabhu. It depends on person to person, situation to situation. But in essence, the principle is given in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. It says, Pranay ardhair diya vacha. So the first and topmost is that you give your life to Krishna, that, we use every bit of our energy, our resources for the service of the Lord. And spreading the message of the Lord is also service of the Lord. And maybe it can be temple construction, it can be book distribution, it can be, it is the consciousness basically that everything belongs to Krishna. This house is Krishna's house, and I am a servant in this house. My family is like, just like in the olden days, there used to be these jamindars, right? Big landlords. They used to have big bungalows, and in one corner they used to have some houses for their maid servants also. Their maid servants, family after, generation after generation, they just stay in the jamindar's house only. So we also understand that the house that I'm living in is Krishna's property, and I'm just a servant here, and I'm living with my wife, children, whatever. And I need to be accountable to my landlord or my owner. So this is a consciousness. In every activity we become accountable then. That is pranayar. Ardhayar comes to money, like hard-earned money. After working so hard, we earn some money and give a portion of it to the Lord. So that is the basic principle for any grahastha actually. Pranayar, ardhayar, diya and vacha. Like if you are not in a position to give money, then you can also, it's not that you can, if that is not possible, then go for the next. But we can do simultaneously all of them also. Diya is intelligence. Use your intelligence to serve Krishna. And then comes vacha. Vacha is by word. Like even by speaking, we can serve Krishna. We can offer ourselves to the Lord. So these are the fundamental basic things which are spoken in Bhagavatam actually. And I think every other charity that we give in terms of serving Krishna or serving devotees or even serving society at large, they are all subcategories of these four major things, Prabhu. So we can offer our consciousness. When the consciousness is offered to Krishna, then everything else just follows actually. So that is my understanding, Prabhu. Does that satisfy you?
Yes, Prabhu, but that's a good explanation. Thank you very much. Just one small doubt. So, is there any particular order, that will be more fulfilling? Like you give what you have more, or you give what you want more. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. The four I understand, but anything in this Vedic literature that mentions.
Yeah. So basically, Vedic literature says, even Prahlad Maharaj says that for a grahastha, money is like honey. And you should try to give what you are more attached to actually. By that you are purifying that. And different people have different attachments, but basically everyone is attached to. Am I disconnected?
So no, we can
Yeah.
hear you.
Yeah. Sorry, Prabhu. Yeah. Basically, we are all, everyone is in this world is attached to, wealth. So that is something very, very deep attachment. That is something which we want to offer to Krishna. And And of course, it can be anything, because Krishna says, patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhaktya prayachasi tadaham bhakti upahritam. So what Krishna is accepting is not the resources that we are offering. He is only accepting the bhakti from that. Tadaham bhakti upahritam. He accepts that. So Vidura's example is classic, that when Krishna visited his house, he and his wife offered the banana peel, threw away banana, right? Threw away banana in the dustbin, and they gave the banana peel to Krishna, and Krishna accepted that with love, because Vidura offered it with love. So Krishna is not looking at, so there are few things which I heard in this connection. So Krishna wants to see what you are holding back. He is not interested in what you are giving, actually. So Krishna is, because that is for our purification. So what are we holding back is what matters to Krishna the most, because the thing that we are holding back is the thing that we are attached to, actually. And Krishna wants to slacken that attachment. So it is said, right? Bhakti pareshanubhave viraktir anyatra cha. So a person, what is the litmus test for a person who is advancing in the path of bhakti? How do we say whether a person is advancing or not? So this verse actually defines that. Bhakti pareshanubhave. So one should be able to get the experience of the paresha. Paresha is a person who is beyond this world. Para isha, right? One should experience that, and anybody can say, right? I can, from today onwards, I can say, like, I am experiencing, I'm in direct touch with Krishna, I'm speaking to him every day. But then that is not the criteria, actually. Viraktir anyatra cha is something which can be easily observed by anyone, actually. Like, are we still attached to the same things that we were attached to 10 years back, is the question. We can use all the resources, there is no problem. And Krishna doesn't want us to suffer. He wants us to happily, practice, be happy in this world. He doesn't want us to suffer. He gave all these resources so that we can be happy. But at the same time, what he is expecting is that little bit of gratitude, that, my dear Lord, you are so merciful that you gave me all this. Because you gave me all this, I don't want to use it, for my sake. I want to use it for yourself. It's just like a father and a son, right? A son has, let us say, 10 rupees, which he took from father only. But then he goes out, one way he can spend is like, he takes the $10 bill, and he purchases some movie, some CD or DVD or whatever, or a small toy, whatever, for his own purpose. On the other hand, this is one way how he can spend. On the other hand, he can also take the same money and says, okay, I will use because my father gave it to me, but I will keep a portion of it, maybe a $2, for maybe purchase a flower and take it to father and say, Father, this is for you. So father becomes very happy, right? So similarly, we also are like, we are all children of Krishna. And Krishna is not very interested in that, what we are offering, like, $2, $3. It is like that only. He's Lakshmipati, right? So what can we offer to Krishna? But the mood in which we have to offer is the gratitude. That is what Krishna is accepting. So anything we offer, Krishna is ready to accept. But we should be understanding also, like, the order in which you are offering, as you asked. That's why I'm saying this, that, I would try to offer that thing which I have the greatest attachment to. That is the ideal thing. I'm not saying I'm offering that, but but that is the ideal thing, because we understand, we realize that, this is something which is holding me back from surrendering to Krishna. So let me give that. Just like, Draupadi was holding with both her hands, her sari, and Krishna did not come. Only when she felt like, okay, now Krishna is the only protector, and lifted both the hands, immediately, even before she thought, Krishna was there, right? So Krishna is looking for that kind of faith in each and every of his devotee. And when that faith is there, Krishna is also there with us. When we have that faith, we are ready to put forward our faith, then Krishna is also present there immediately. He doesn't even take one moment to be there, right? So, but then, as long as we are holding back like the Draupadi, then Krishna says, okay, I will wait. You are waiting, I am also waiting. That's all. So what I feel is, like, we should not put Krishna on wait list, actually. We should prioritize him. And when it comes to order, yeah, as I said, Krishna is not at all interested in what we are actually, giving to him, but he is interested in how we are giving it to him. The intent behind our offering is most important. Then it is, more important than what the content of the offering actually. So that is my humble understanding, Prabhu. If any devotee want to add anything to this, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Thanks for your detailed explanation. Thank you very much.
Prabhu. Thank you very much. I think it is already 8:10. I don't want to take so much time of devotees. So if no one has any other comments, then I think we can close it here.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Please
Hare
accept my
Krishna,
humble
Mataji.
obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank
Glories
you
to Srila
for your
Prabhupada.
wonderful class. It's always a pleasure to hear from you. I was thinking, just as Vidura is trying to awaken Dhritarashtra, you were also trying to wake us up this morning by your message that, don't be miserly, don't waste your time. Because even in the couple of classes ago, we heard that, we're all Dhritarashtras in this Kali Yuga. So this message of hearing repeatedly, especially from devotees, is very much needed, so I appreciate, your class today. And I just wanted one clarification in chronology of Vidura pastimes. So when the Kurukshetra battle happened, Vidura was not present. He had already gone for pilgrimage.
Yeah.
And that is when he meets Maitreya.
Yes.
And he learns, this transcendental knowledge, and then he returns.
Yes.
And then he's trying to save Dhritarashtra.
Yes. Yes, Mataji.
Okay. And his purpose of also coming, just a clarification, is to really give this knowledge to Dhritarashtra rather than any other motive besides that.
Yes.
That was his purpose. That's what I'm understanding from everybody's, because I've never read Mahabharata or anything. So yeah.
Yes, Mataji, that is perfect actually. Like Vidura leaving the kingdom Hastinapura, and then Vidura's instructions to Dhritarashtra, both are recorded in the first canto only. But then Vidura's meeting of Maitreya is recorded in the third canto.
Right. And I've never gone to third canto. So I'm not, I haven't read that part yet. So this is helpful.
Yes, thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhu, so much. Hare Krishna.
So Lingaraj Prabhu, maybe we can stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. Shila Prabhupada ki jai, Grandhara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Tay Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai.